AM 1220 KHTS, your hometownstation.com. You're here with Dr. Proctor. We're here every Thursday, noon to 1. It's an opportunity for us to look over the shoulders of the medical community, doctors, physicians, and all of the people that help facilitate good health and take care of us when we're not in good health. And as things change here in the United States as far as the Affordable Health Care Act, doctors and hospitals are impacted. More people than ever are having the opportunity to see the medical community, which is a good thing, and sometimes it's also a very difficult thing because now the doctors, again, their load is a lot heavier. And one of the things I'm hoping to do is have conversations where we can be our own best advocates for ourselves, for our family members and loved ones, so that when we do have the opportunity to go and see members of the medical community, we are at our most effective, helping them be their most efficient, and again, look after ourselves and our loved ones to the best of our ability. Today, I am with Dr. Sabita Mala. She has a private practice here in the Santa Clarita Valley. She's also affiliated with Sierra Medical Group. And Rick Ferrante, who normally pops into the studio to afternoon tea with me to talk about home care services, but today he's here as chair of the Santa Clarita Walk to End Alzheimer's. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here with me.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. So today, Dr. Mala is an internal medicine. She's also she's an internal medicine geriatrician. She is very well versed in Alzheimer's disease, as is Rick Ferrante, as chair of the Santa Clarita Walk to End Alzheimer's. And I would like to have a bit of a conversation. First of all, I would spell out for me what Alzheimer's disease is, how it is not a natural part of aging, and what it does to the brain. Dr. Mala, could I ask you to do that for me?
Sure. Thank you for having me in the air.
Go ahead.
Alzheimer's dementia is very common. It's one of the most common diseases in dementia category. What is dementia? It's just a memory problem along with problem with writing, speaking coherently, and also with difficulty in getting familiar with the surroundings, difficulty in doing regular tasks, multitasking like paying bills. So that is dementia. There is many types of dementia. The most common is Alzheimer's dementia. 60 to 80% of all the dementia is Alzheimer's dementia.
And currently, there's no just straight-up test for Alzheimer's. Would that be correct? I mean, they're working on it. I've seen a lot of studies that they're trying to where you could walk in, take a blood test or a very definitive test. There are things that lead you to believe diagnostically this person is in the stages of Alzheimer's, but a lot of times they cross over, don't they, these different forms of dementia?
Yes, they do. But since it's so common, if patient has a dementia, you can be certain that most probably it's Alzheimer's dementia, and there are tests that leads to it. We do tests that shows it's probably Alzheimer's, like PET scans, memory testings, and definitive diagnosis, of course, is the biopsy, brain biopsy, which we hardly do.
Right, and that's not typically something that matters anyway, because most dementia, as a patient deals with this, for the most part, how the person is affected and how we deal with them medically and with therapies or just intervention, for the most part, they're pretty similarly suited for dementia, correct?
Right. Most of the dementia we deal with similarly, except for medications. There are differences. So that's why it's very important to find out if it's Alzheimer's or if it's frontotemporal. There are difference in treating them with medication, but otherwise, increasing mental health, physical health, it's same.
And when it comes to Alzheimer's, Rick, we've talked about this. It's not a natural part of aging. It's not everyone who's aging is going to develop Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So the biggest issue here on those kinds of things is it's for so long, it's grandma is getting kind of, forgetful, and she's getting, that whole kind of concept of naturally when you get older, you start to get forgetful and you start to end up with these things.
Well,
right?
the joke is old timers. If I don't have Alzheimer's, I have old timers, because you do start to lose a little bit of natural ability. I mean,
Right.
I'm 53, and I find there are days it's like, why did I come in this room?
Right.
Where did I leave my keys?
And
But doesn't necessarily mean that I'm on the path to this natural progression of a form of dementia or Alzheimer's.
It's really common to forget where you leave your keys. It's not, and it is a disease when you forget what keys are for.
Yes, and that's the way I've heard that described. It's not when you forget what it is, it's what it does, or
There's
where they are.
There's a degree, right?
Yeah.
And then and not everybody is the same, and not everybody is perfectly the same here. But the problem is that because everybody thinks of it that way, then people are not getting diagnosed. And as Dr. Mala said, it's really important to do so, because either the treatment's different, you then have support. There's all kinds of things. But that's the problem. This is not normal, gang. This is a disease, and we have to think of it that way.
It's not normal, but boy, the numbers are high. Share with me, because I know you've spoken about this before. Share with me the statistics on this.
I'll just give you some of them, and they're staggering. T, you look at this kind of stuff, and you think about it in terms of other diseases and so on. You don't realize these things. Every 63 seconds, somebody in the United States develops Alzheimer's.
Every 63 seconds.
Just in the United States.
Wow.
Okay, 5.3 million people right now have the disease. 2,000, and then of those that are 65 and older, 5.1 million are 65 and older. There are a few, and it's much more rare, of early onset Alzheimer's, but 5.1 million that are 65 and older. And the really, really scary stuff isn't actually just today. So by 2025, so it's 5.1 million today, 2025 will be 7.1. By 2050, will be 13.8 million people with this disease. It is going that easily could be the single biggest issue that we have in terms of both, just resources and money, et cetera, for our entire health system.
And that's what's frightening to me, the idea that we're ill prepared to deal with just the sheer numbers, the volume of individuals, because I can tell you Alzheimer's has touched my family's life, and the amount of care and attention and what went into this was yes, it was financially draining, but it was emotionally exhausting, and it was brain-tappingly outrageous how much information we needed to learn, we needed to know, we needed to have in our arsenal so that we could deal with the situation, and that was one person.
Right. Yeah, the impact here and kind of the takeaway is that it impacts families. It's not just the patient. I'm sure Dr. Mahal has seen this. I mean, what you end up is the caregiver having, just as many issues, albeit different, but I mean, they're just as many issues because they're not prepared, they're not skilled, they're not really caregivers. This is not what they trained for. They have their own careers and their families, but they become caregivers. And that's what you end up with, is this kind of real impact on more than just that one person, but you end up with impact on families, communities, friends, neighbors, the whole thing. So it is pretty staggering. And then, just in terms of numbers, also the money-wise. Just so today, $226 million spent on Alzheimer's. Half of that is in Medicare. By 2050, will be 1.1 trillion if there's nothing done to prevent, cure, or slow this disease. That's a 5-time increase in Medicare and Medicaid spending, and 5-time out-of-pocket as well. If you just look at kind of what we're spending money on in this country in terms of healthcare, this is going to be, it's not just what the numbers are today, but it's the growth. And then, in terms of instances, there's more it kills more people. Alzheimer's kills more people than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined.
And we're going to talk about that because a lot of times with Alzheimer's, and I can tell you from personal experience, a lot of families or people think, oh, this is just it's a cognitive thing, it's just a memory thing. And we're going to talk about where that goes. We're here today with Dr. Proctor, IMT. I'm sitting with Dr. Sabina Mala. She has a private practice here in the Santa Clarita Valley, also affiliated with Sierra Medical Group, and Rick Ferrante, chair of the Santa Clarita Walk to End Alzheimer's. And I also love that your other hat is for Home Care Services Santa Clarita, because the idea that a lot of people would like to stay home as life happens and you have to deal with issues. Dr. Mala, could you talk me through some of the signs of Alzheimer's disease? As Rick says, a lot of times, you'll get forgetful, you'll leave something, in another room. I've even found myself, I'll be in a hurry, unloading the groceries. Where are my keys? Where are my keys? Wow, they're in the refrigerator. So it's not so much where you left them. The typical overview for something like Alzheimer's is it's not that you forgot where you left your keys, you forgot what they do. You forgot what a key is. Can you, as a doctor, walk me through what someone in perhaps listening, their family members, they're kind of watching, they're seeing some of this. What are the signs of Alzheimer's disease? What differentiates that from just a cognitive memory issue, and when someone should seek out a diagnosis?
People say, I forgot my keys. They say, oh, maybe I'm developing Alzheimer's disease. That is wrong. Everyone does. That is a normal phase of getting old, but it shouldn't be in such an extent that you are unable to do your regular daily day-to-day activities. If there is a problem, then only. Otherwise, it's normal signs of aging that you have short-term memory losses and it's not progressive. But there is a in-between phase of normal normal memory problem versus Alzheimer's. In between is the mild cognitive impairment. That is, you just have a slight short-term memory problem, but without any other problem in other cognitive domains. Alzheimer's is that there should be a memory problem, and there is at least one or two of the problems in other cognitive domains. That is like difficulty with writing, difficulty with language, difficulty with recognizing your regular, normal surroundings, difficulty in doing regular tasks like paying bills. Those are very important signs which are seen not only by patients, it's usually first noticed by the caregivers or your family members or your friends.
I can tell you a personal story. We know a lady who had been a bookkeeper for years, numbers and money, and that was her thing. And she tried to take a photocopy of a check to the bank to have it cashed. And that's not right, but it wasn't making sense to her that this wasn't. And that was one of the first signs that her family said, oh, we need to sit down and we need to have a conversation about what's happening, just as you say, cognitively. So if you start to see this in someone you love, let me ask you, does someone who, we all kind of go through that memory thing, does someone who typically has Alzheimer's or is developing Alzheimer's, would they be aware of this themselves too? Is that something that they're...
Usually, dementia patient, they are not aware of these.
They're not?
Yes.
But Alzheimer's patients are sort of aware of that slip, or no?
No, they are
just
not.
Across the board?
Yeah, if they are aware, then they are still not in the phase of dementia.
Okay,
so
this is a good sign.
Right.
And so at what point do we take our loved one, because it's us that will see the signs, at what point do we say we need to see a doctor, we need to go in and when we start to see that change?
That should be done immediately. As soon as you notice some difficulties in the patient, like memory problem, along with confusions, getting lost in the familiar surroundings.
What about anger? I know sometimes there's
that is already a
pretty good marker.
Yes, it is a very good marker. They become confused, angry, agitated. They keep on getting into fights with their people. They become stubborn. those are very good signs. So we need to educate
Okay.
the caregivers.
So how
and the
then do we
patients.
prepare to visit for a doctor? What kind of information, what should we be prepared to say or bring or do when we get to that appointment?
So the most important thing is someone who knows the patient well should come with the patient and come with everything, all the past medical history, medications, since the doctor will need everything, history from the patient and the caregivers, family members, because there are so many other causes that can contribute to all these dementia-like symptoms. It can be medication, drug interactions, infections. There is stresses involved, strokes. So we need all the past medical history along with medications and how the patient is living, caregiver issues. If a loved one comes with the patient, that is the best thing, along with the caregiver. So we get all the pictures and we can go along testing, not only.
Now, if we have someone that, and I'm super worried about things like HIPAA laws, because yes, we should bring someone with us that speaks for, the family member. What if you have someone you love and you care about, and perhaps you can address this. If not, we'll have to dig a little deeper. Someone you care about, they're not family, and you think, I'm very concerned for them, and we bring that person to the doctor's office, or we have questions. If we were to call, for example, our local geriatrician and say, how do I begin this process? Is there a checklist, or is there something that could help us prepare someone who maybe we're not related to? We don't have those rights to go in and do that. Because a lot of people now, more and more, I find, having been over at the senior center and affiliating with residents in our valley, a lot of times their family, they're far away, or sometimes they are a little estranged from their family. This is one thing I'm concerned about for Alzheimer patients and care as we move forward. What do we do for the people who maybe don't have that immediate family member there to do this for them? Is there a way, or do we have to dig deeper?
Obviously HIPAA laws are going to be, and Dr. Mala can talk about in terms of what, and in her practice, the process or policies are in terms of HIPAA. But obviously, what HIPAA isn't designed to prevent people from, allowing people to have a, care. That's not what they're designed for. They're designed for
not sharing that information.
Right, so that that it is private information. But if somebody brings whoever those people are and has the ability and the awareness to be able to, say this is who I want to be here with me, then yes, that can be accommodated in terms of HIPAA.
Because I do worry about our aging population
Yeah.
and having those, friends or neighbors, or sometimes being able to step in. And again, the idea of a checklist where, as you were saying, the things we're looking for, if we were to call, the doctor's office or even the Alzheimer's Association, I'm sure they have loads of information to be able to go on and look and say, here's what you're looking for. Here's what you need to be prepared to take into the doctor's office. Because I have to say, even as someone who has a relatively good memory, it's hard to come into your office, Dr. Mala, and just off on the fly be prepared with the best information for you. Isn't it probably a good idea to write it down?
Right.
That would help you?
That is a very good suggestion, yes.
Because it is hard to remember everything.
Right.
And there are so many times we leave your doctor's office and go, I forgot to say this, or, I
this.
probably should have mentioned
Yes.
that.
One of the things that we've always they recommend is even a log. Can you imagine, Dr. Mala, somebody coming in with a log of what's been going on, just a general idea of the things that they've noticed and so on. I would imagine that would be important or very helpful.
Right.
I've often said, I think, as our own best advocates or for our loved ones, if you can keep just a little journal, and it doesn't have to be incredibly detailed, but eating habits and regular activities or level of exertion or the dietary changes. Because I've found working with an older population, one of the first things that changed was sudden dislike for a certain food, and it's like, oh wait, what? That was a huge disruption and might help you. So how much better would your visits be if patients came in with some pretty detailed information?
I do. I do have that on people who doesn't have severe dementia. We do have that, but on people who has severe dementia, we can't do because they are unable to do anything.
Right.
That's what is dementia.
Right.
They slowly deteriorate.
When we come back, we're going to talk more about Alzheimer's here with Dr. Mala and Rick Ferrante, who is the chair of the Santa Clarita Walk to End Alzheimer's IMT. This is Dr. Proctor. We'll be back after these messages.